training, what every employee should know, and how each of us can help and protect our own organization. This webinar will be recorded, and all attendees are welcome to use this as free training to distribute among your staff if you wish to. I want to acknowledge so many of you have been long-term PBSI clients, and I know your names, I see your attendance. Thank you for your partnership, and also those of you who are new clients. Our partnership's appreciated. So I'm going to be efficient today, and a lot of material to cover, so I'll probably speak quickly. I speak quickly anyway, but if you drift off, you may likely miss some content because I'll be moving to topic quickly in order to fit all today's content in 30 minutes. So our agenda: how do I keep my desktop secure? What are some guidelines for managing passwords? How to evaluate dangerous emails? A lot of really good examples here. What can we do to help protect our email? I'll do a short demonstration of Office 365's really important security tool here, Advanced Threat Protection, and then other principles of secure behavior. Today is intended for education, not selling products or services. We want to help everybody know what are the things I really need to know in order to keep my organization secure and behave securely. So I want to thank the many of you who are PBSI clients. Your partnership is appreciated. For many of you, today is your first exposure to PBSI. Simply, we supply technology and security services for hundreds of clients in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. And as CEO, I'm blessed to be able to say that 75% of our staff have been with us for 10 years or longer. We have a really, really experienced team, and I know that experienced knowledge helps clients. So our main business, we do a lot of things related to IT, but security and communication are central to what we do. Why do we need protection? This is evident of those of you who are attending today. You're the smart ones. You're the ones who understand that there's no end to education. Personally, I'm an ongoing learner as an organization. We learn all the time. We modify content. We pay attention to the ongoing changes and in some cases frightening changes in the security world. But you know that the internet is a dangerous place, and that among the more dangerous things are that our PCs are increasingly infected with logging and phishing software which doesn't announce itself. And so how do we know if our PC is protected? It's important that we understand that. So the fact that victims are not notified that we have software running on our PCs almost requires today that we have some form of security monitoring, which each of you who are PBSI clients are protected with this monitoring, in case you're wondering. One of the fundamental problems, which I won't demonstrate, if you've attended previous webinars, you've seen me demonstrate a dark web password exposure check. But the fact is, there are 1.2 billion exposed passwords out there on the internet available for sale. And if you have an organization with more than, say, 10 employees, it's very likely that several of your email addresses are among those where there are email addresses and passwords exposed. What does that mean to us? It means that we can't take that back. It was LinkedIn or Yahoo or Gmail or wherever we stored our password, and they got hacked, which put the password and email combination that we used at that time out there for sale permanently on the internet. And that has to do with password management that we'll talk a bit about. But we need to understand that our email can be compromised because of past activity which we can't fix. So with that context, how do we behave securely? How do we keep our devices secure? Important content. So there are two handouts which each of you will receive after the conclusion of today's webinar, and this screen summarizes one of them, which the handout what we call Do's and Don'ts of IT Security. I'm going to cover this content really quickly because there's a lot to go through, but the basics are: keep my passwords private and unique. Don't reuse passwords. And if you have a, quote, normal password, stop using it, change it. We do some free training on password management. I'll cover that briefly today, but the key elements are Keep passwords private and unique. Use a password manager. It's a strong recommendation. They're easy to use. I've used LastPass and Dashlane. They both work really well. There are other password managers. But as far as behavior at work, don't share passwords among personal and work sites. That's one fundamental. Don't have a mistake that you made at work compromise your bank at home, and vice versa. And don't store written passwords. This is almost funny, but still, I am in a client's office, and it's just so common to see passwords taped to the monitor and otherwise in display around workstation. One of the fundamental things that we'll talk about today is be very careful. Do not click on links or open attachments in emails unless you've gone through a host of processes, and recognize the important difference between an email that's solicited and unsolicited. There's more about this, so I won't spend more time here. One of the principles at work, which each of us, I'm recommending this to each organization, that there be a principle in place communicated to all employees that says no software downloads of any kind on my PC unless approved by my manager. So what does my manager know about whether it's okay? Generally speaking, most managers would say the same thing. Well, I don't know. And then the answer is go to your manager, or ultimately ending up at IT. And the basic idea is, unless it's work related, no software downloads on my PC. Screensavers, weather apps, coupon sites, free movies. I mean, there are some really high profile, dangerous sites, but it's not just limited to these. Don't download software. It keeps your PCs faster, and it certainly keeps them safer. One of the key principles of security is making sure that patches on my PC are up to date. And if you're a PBSI client listening to this, we handle your patch management. We make sure, and we mitigate when patches fail, but we make sure that patches are up to date. The reason this is important, and all PCs need to be set to auto update, not only antivirus, but Windows, apps, browsers. What happens is the ongoing process, security patches are released. Why are they released? Because the vendor becomes aware of a vulnerability. That's Microsoft, Apple, Adobe, it's Windows, it's Office, it's Chrome, it's whatever software. There are vulnerabilities that are identified with surprising regularity, and when they are fixed, the manufacturer makes the security patch available for free download, and at that time, they tell the world, now we've released a fix for this vulnerability, and here's what it looks like. And with that description, the hackers worldwide can immediately, and they do, not all of them, behavior isn't consistent, but they can probe for how do they take advantage of that vulnerability, and oh, what do you know, we didn't know we could do that, and immediately the game begins. And it's not a game, it's very real, and just hundreds of millions of pings are sent out every day probing for what software is installed on devices, looking for devices that will respond. By device, I mean a PC, a server. One of the important reasons for a firewall is you stop those pings at the entry gate to your organization. But even then, if any PC in your organization has been compromised, the PCs can be taken in from that one damaged PC, and the pings happen from within the network. So key message, keep your patches up to date. And it's hard for an employee at a workstation to do that, but what they can do is respond to questions. Do you want to update? Do you want to reboot? The answer is yes, yes. And there are other security-related power settings. So we recommend for anybody where their workstation is in an area where others can see their screen, set your screensaver to require a password. It's very simple to do, and this replaces turning your PC off, because leaving your PC on at night is actually a good thing security-wise. So the scans run at night, the patch updates take place at night, the reboots happen at night, but your PC is safe because nobody can walk up to your keyboard and see what's on your screen unless they know your screensaver password. So keep your PCs on. Important information. We see all kinds of examples where these policies aren't followed, and it results in some insecurity. Email is not secure, and hopefully most of us know this at this point. We're not permitted to email protected information, and that means protected health information or private information, PII or PHI, anything that associates a name with social security numbers, credit card numbers, dates of birth, ICD codes, CPT codes, driver's license numbers, and so forth. That's protected information. We have an obligation to protect the identities of those whom we serve, whether it's patients or clients. And so what do we do if we want to transmit this kind of information? The answer is we encrypt the email. It's easy to do, it's inexpensive. I'll talk briefly about how we do that, but it's important to know we can't email secure information. And then finally, the fail-safe, which unfortunately isn't 100% fail-safe today because of the behavior of some ransomware, but the fail-safe that's really critical is that every file that we use in our organizations, we need to make sure it's backed up. And many of us, I don't want to see the looks on everybody's faces when I say this, we have documents on our desktop, we have documents on our C drives, we have documents we know aren't being backed up, or we say, yeah, we back it up because I did so 6 months ago. But we each, and employees in our organizations, all need to know we're responsible to make sure the files are backed up because damage can occur. And I'm not threat mongering, this is just the reality. Threats are more pervasive than ever, more frequent than ever, and more damaging when they happen. So backup is kind of essential, and understanding the importance of it for each employee. Okay, I'm going to move quickly through password guidelines, but the basic ideas here are don't use a normal password and use phrases, use something you can remember, but an idea here, which I use personally, and it's an idea that is possibly useful. If you have, let's say, a normal password, and I have one that I call normal 8. It doesn't include 8 characters, but that's what I call it. I store passwords where I describe the password to myself as normal 8 cap first or cap second. So I capitalize one or more of the characters, and I put different numbers, and I have different special characters at the end, so I can see normal 8 with a couple of other thoughts there, and I know what the password is, but nowhere in the universe is normal 8 stored, so that the keys to the kingdom aren't unlocked. It's just an idea. For most of us, the best idea is use a password manager. Don't reuse work passwords on personal sites and vice versa. Enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. All banks, credit card companies, Microsoft Office 365, it's really quite straightforward, and there are both phone text processes that by now we're all familiar with. They work. It's a little bit of a hassle, but they work, and there are also authenticator apps. Microsoft makes one, Google makes one, others make one where you can use your Face ID on your phone for your second two-factor authentication. But it really does help because then password theft is much less of a dangerous issue. If you want to know if your passwords have been compromised, we will do for free for any of you a check for your domain. So just send us an email or ask, or in the end of the webinar, just say check our domain, and we will find out what passwords, what email addresses within your organization have been compromised. And we can check individual email addresses as well. And the plain fact is we do this all the time. Any organization of any significant size, you will have some compromises out there. And most of us, when we see our password history stored out there and available for sale on the dark web, we're shocked. But it's important we know they're there so we can help. Use a password manager. It's really the only, there's no such thing as foolproof. That's a word I'd like to use, I can't use. But there's never been an example, to my knowledge, of any password manager having been hacked and passwords compromised. So they're stored in any password manager at a very, very secure level, and they really just solve all kinds of other issues with other methods. So passwords, really important that people know how to manage them. Okay, I'm going to work through email security, and there are 4 basic principles, and then I'm going to go through some examples. So principle number 1, how do I know when an email comes into my inbox whether it's okay or not? First of all, I need to know, is it solicited or unsolicited? What's the difference? Unsolicited means unrequested and unexpected. So you get an email from Ray at PBSI. You know Ray, that's okay, but it might be unrequested or unexpected. So that's unsolicited. Now, if you get a webinar invitation from PBSI, that's not unexpected for many of you. But the purpose here is to understand that emails can be hacked, and you get an email from Ray at PBSI, it might not be from Ray at PBSI. So you have to be diligent in understanding if this is unrequested or unexpected. I look at it with a little different level of care. Anything unusual about this email? Brief emails from known persons where there's a short address list where you know that the person who's sending it to you knows these other people, that has short content. I mean, you've seen examples of this. The context, wait a minute, why would that person send that email to me? What time of day was it sent? These just are easy to spot telltale signs of an email that I stay away from. Just delete. Principle 2, antenna up all the time. Anything at all seem amiss, anything out of context, stop. Do I need to click this now? Do I need to click it at all? If you're a PBSI client, you can always forward an email to PBSI support at pbsitech.com, and ask, is this email okay? And we'll vet it and respond back to you. Don't guess and hope that it's okay. So you can hover over the email address, or if there's a link in the email, hover over that. And email addresses are intentionally, the bad guys will intentionally make them seem plausible. I saw one just yesterday that was almost laughable. It was something like security.ibm.us.com is like, IBM just seemed like a credible name to include in there in the email address, but it's frequently, it's the easiest way to see this very legitimate looking email really isn't from the source it purports to be. Just delete. Time of day it was sent, recipient list, anything out of character. Why would this email come to me? Misspellings, grammar mistakes, phrasing, colors, formatting, font variations. Not all, but a significant percentage of the quote bad emails that come from outside of the country, from non-native English speakers, and so we can see some things sometimes, not always obvious. The bad guys are usually pretty darn clever. Okay, other key principles: don't get your news from your email. I'll show you a couple examples of this. I still remember the times where I got a couple of these emails, which I've used as examples, where I remember seeing the email and thinking, oh, I didn't know that. The day that the United Airlines passenger was thrown off the flight, some, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, and the email came same day saying, U.S. Airlines CEO has been fired over that incident. I remember thinking, really, is that right? I didn't click, but I wanted to, and sure enough, it was fake. If I had, it was, it would have been bad. The bad guys are really quick, really quick. Tax time, disaster, holiday message, coronavirus, absolutely anything in the current news within a day or 2 days, there are scammers out there trying to interest us in more information, and especially the less true it is, the more interesting it might be. Don't get your news from your email. Go to your news source. If you think something might be true, then go find out whether it's true. Don't click on the email. Social media is rife with problems. Don't click on things in social media. Your friends are not foolproof. Too good to be true. I'm sorry, I'd love that $50 gift card, but I'm just not going to click on that because the likelihood that it's really a free $50 gift card is too low to be considered. Careful with unsubscribe. Another important thing here, we recommend, if you have subscribed to Macy's is having a one day, and you know that the email is coming from Macy's, then go ahead and unsubscribe. That's fine. But not all emails purported to be from Macy's are really from Macy's. So if you want the safe way to do it, instead of unsubscribe, then right-click. This is an Outlook. Choose junk, block sender, and that accomplishes the same thing. So what's the difference? Unsubscribe communicates back to the email source that this is a real email address. Oh boy, now they've really know that this isn't a junk email address. This is somebody who there's really a person there, and they'll redouble their efforts possibly. But junk and block sender, that email will never show up again for you, but you've not communicated anything back to the sender. Scammers use unsubscribe in ways that we just don't expect. Antenna up. So these are some safety principles. Hopefully they make sense. And we have an attachment also that each of you will get summarizing these security principles. Now I'm going to go through some examples of bad emails. Some of these are old, some of these are recent. E-faxes, still used very commonly, and you can evaluate by some things on an so fax message at eFax Online, that's plausible, and sometimes the email address might be plausible, but if you had clicked on this one, you would have received this Bitcoin ransomware message. You've now been attacked with ransomware. That would have been a very bad click. Click here to view this message. Any of these things that are underlined are damaging links that would have produced bad results. Emails that are warning or alert emails. So the fraud notice here was added by me. This one came from Amazon. No, it wasn't from Amazon, but it looks like it was. And freight-related messages, Amazon-security.net. That's a clever name, but it's not a real address. Here's one a couple of years ago. The Spectre meltdown thing was announced where there had to be a hardware fix, and it was a big deal right around the 1st of January. Well, here, within a couple of days of that, came this email that looked credible, but any of these links for more information about that virus, how to protect yourself, were bad. They would have created damage. So this is getting news from email, shipping confirmations. This is not from FedEx. This is not from UPS. And so it's, you know, your shipment's been delayed, or don't forget to pick up the package that's been waiting for you. These are just clever, unless you know that you've ordered something and you can go to the site from which you ordered it. Stay away from these kinds of emails. Here's the example I mentioned where the CEO appeared to be from Fox News was fired. That did not happen. That was a fake email, never was true. Here's another one I remember getting. Says the guy who drove his car into a crowd at Charlottesville was acquitted by a grand jury. I remember receiving this email and thinking, really? Well, it wasn't true. It didn't click. I'm really proud of myself. But you can see NBC News and NBC Alerts. Well, that looks real, but that's not a real email address. So you just, the basic idea is don't get your news from your email. So here is an example of a banking email that's good and one that's not. And how do you know the difference? Well, this is not a universal truth. There are banks who send emails to us and they do have links inside of them and they might be legitimate, but I never click on one. So here's one from Huntington, the bank I use, and all it says is you have a statement available. There's nothing to click. Well, that's because they want to inform me about this, but they are appropriately saying, we know you're not going to click on this email, or if you're smart, you're not going to click on this email, so here's some information. Okay, good. Here's one from Citi that isn't really from Citi, and you know, security problem. This isn't a new email, but it's just an example where if you think you have a message from Citibank, go to the site, use your login there. Don't click on this link. Trusted sources, donation requests. Here's an email from Goodwill after a disaster just happened in San Francisco that says, choose your amount, just click here. Well, any one of these clicks would have delivered a piece of malware. This was not from Goodwill. But as soon as, you know, we're taking advantage, oh, Goodwill, I trust Goodwill, and I would donate to them for this cause. Don't do it. It came in an email. Go to goodwill.com or whatever their address is. Same thing here. I got an email from Kroger that I remember thinking, well, that's legitimate because I own a business, and this says businesses have been selected to participate in employee coupon discounts. I'm thinking, okay, this is credible. I didn't click on it. It wasn't legit. It's easy to guess that certain people in Cincinnati might have accounts with Kroger. They might have reason to think this is legitimate. Just have to be very, very careful. Emails requesting signatures. This is difficult because a lot of people use e-signature software, and you just really have to pay attention to the details. And if you're not, here's a case where solicited versus unsolicited, expected versus unexpected is critical. If you're expecting a document to sign and the vendor sends you the document, then maybe it's okay. But you know, these you know, we can fix your credit. These are just bad emails, and I'm trying to make sure everybody's aware that these things can be really, really attractive, or they seem so legitimate. So, other email caution steps: hover over links, spellings, unexpected content. Never reply in an email or a text for confirmation or reset. Go to the vendor site. You may, in fact, need to reset your password, but don't do it by clicking on a link in an email. And always think twice. So there's a site, scanurl.net. It's not 100% sufficient, but you can go there. The best thing that I'd recommend if you're a PBSI client, you think an email might be okay, just forward it to support@pbsitech.com and ask, is this okay? Because there are resources on the internet that tend to identify common scams, and if a link is okay, it can be vetted carefully. I'm going to talk about Microsoft Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection. That is the best solution. It will prevent damage from any piece of poor judgment. So, common hacker spoofs. It's tax season. We know that you know, get your PIN number from IRS before the hackers do it. That's not going to come from IRS. They will not send you an email. Reset your PIN number, problem with your W-2, all kinds of things that are current event related. Stay away. It's a common thing now. You get a text, unusual activity has been detected, need to reset your password. Go to the site, don't click. Okay, so recurring theme, advanced threat protection. I'm not going to demonstrate this, I'll mention it. This to me, at PBSI, we went from a fully paid Exchange server with a fully paid set of Office licenses to the subscription Office 365 product. We did it in order to get this $2 a month option called ATP, Advanced Threat Protection. And what it does, when you click on a link or open an attachment in an email, Microsoft sends it through a site called SafeLinks, fully explodes whatever's going to happen is going to happen badly. And instead of, if it's a bad link or a bad attachment, instead of getting ransomware or malware, the user simply gets a message that says, oops, that was a malicious link. End of story. That's what gets displayed on the screen. And if you've ever seen that message and you're a PBSI client with ATP, you know how thankful you are. Oh my gosh, that would have been a mistake, but I was just saved. And then one other thing, email, to avoid sending secure information by email without encrypting, there's another Office 365 option called AIP, Secure Information Protection. It allows you to encrypt an outgoing email, and you don't need it on all your email addresses. You just need it on the small handful of folks who might need to send secure information. So protect your email and know that you can encrypt email. Recommendation for everybody is consider security training, whether you're a healthcare office, and this includes HIPAA training, or a business and you need PCI compliance training or OSHA training. The security product that we sell through KnowBe4 is fantastic. It does phishing emails, it does training emails, and they always have up-to-date content. It's really an excellent resource. We use it at PBSI. We have a bunch of clients who do. If you're interested in how to train your employees on a regular basis and how to test whether they have learned the things they need to learn, we can help. Internet of Things, change default passwords on your TVs, printers, thermostat, doorbells. Alexa, don't use default. Change those because they are can create great insecurities within your home or your business. Phones, increasingly important. We've pretty much all learned this by now, I believe, that if the first 6 digit of the incoming caller matches, it's the same area code and the same 3 digits as my phone number, delete. I personally, I think a lot of us do this. I don't answer anymore a call that I don't have on my contact list. And if they don't leave a message, or the message is 3 or 4 seconds or less, I block that number. And if they leave a message, if it's somebody who wants to contact me, they leave a message, fine. Then, but phone scams are more and more common, and certainly a pain in the neck to all of us. privacy settings on PCs. We have information about how to make these settings on Windows 10 that you're welcome to ask about. Public Wi-Fi, do not use public Wi-Fi if you're going to enter a password unless you use a VPN. So I use NordVPN. I don't love it. I'm not necessarily recommending that as the only good VPN software, but if you're going to use public Wi-Fi and you're going to enter a password, don't do it or use a VPN software. And then I mentioned power settings earlier. Leave my PC on at night so that it updates, but have my screensaver set. So summarizing today's content, fundamentals: keep my passwords safe, make them unique, make sure my PC is updated software patch-wise, make sure and all of our staff knows no downloaded software on our PCs unless it's approved by manager. Follow the email safety principles, solicited versus unsolicited, and up always, no news from email, careful with unsubscribe, and then consider other solutions to augment training. Training is inexpensive. Security problems are not inexpensive. So we're finished with content. I want to thank you for your attendance, and I hope everybody has a good day. Again, you're welcome to share this information with other staff if you wish. Thank you for your attendance.